Hello and welcome to another Faculty Friday. Today we are going to be exploring the nursing program here at Lakehead University. For those of you who haven't joined us before, my name is Jordan Ball. I am the International New and Social Media Officer here. And I am joined by a few special guests, but we'll dive into that in just a second. Thanks again for joining us, and good morning, good evening, good afternoon from wherever you are around the world today. So the first thing I would like to talk about is the Lakehead International Live series, just give you a brief background of what it is and sort of what we've covered, what's upcoming, some of the exciting things we have planned. So the Lakehead International series is a daily live series where we are accessible at 10 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time here in Thunder Bay or Ontario, Canada, accessible to answer your questions, but also to share more information while we meet current students, current faculty and staff members, meet different departments and services. It's a great way for you to connect and learn more about Lakehead, of course, still while getting answers to your really important questions. So some of the previous lives earlier this week, we had Thunderwolf Tuesday with Michelle, an environmental science student here on the Thunder Bay campus. So that was over on Instagram Live. Her video is already on our IGTV account as well as our YouTube channel. And then we had our Wednesday weekly admissions update, and that was that recording is on our YouTube channel already. And yesterday we met up with Esther, an applied life science student and a student who is also entering the nursing program. So we dove into that a bit and we got to explore that, all while of course knowing that today we're going to get a full background knowledge of the program itself. Upcoming events include the Monday meetup with Student Success Center. So we have both folks in Thunder Bay and Aurelia joining us to chat about how and what we do to support students through their studies to achieve their personal and academic goals. And then Thunderwolf Tuesday is going to be with Pang, who is an education and math student. And that's going to be over on Instagram with the Instagram Lives at 10 a.m. Wednesday weekly, same old event with the undergraduate and graduate admissions team. And then Thunderwolf Thursday is Simran, who is an applied life sciences student. And last but not least, next Friday, we'll be meeting up with biology and we'll be discussing that entire program. So like I said, today I am joined by a few special guests. Like I said, also, my name is Jordan. I am the International New and Social Media Officer here at Lakehead University. What that means is I help oversee our online presence, our digital recruitment efforts, social media, live events, and plenty more. But I'll pass it off to Patrick Carr, one of our International Recruitment Officers, to introduce himself.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Patrick Carr. I am one of the recruitment officers here at Lakehead University, and I primarily work with students out of the Middle East, Africa, as well as the Caribbean. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have this morning about well, the university as a whole, as well as life at Lakehead. And I'm happy to represent all of my colleagues who you may have met or interacted with who are based around the globe.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Patrick, for joining us. And next, I'll pass off to Wendy, who will chat a bit about what she does here at Lakehead.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Wendy St. Laurent-Coutts, and I am a registered nurse and a registered midwife, but I'm currently faculty with Lakehead University in the Faculty of Health and Behavioral Sciences. And I'm excited to share some additional information, and questions are very welcome with as we move on through the presentation.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much again for joining us today, Wendy. I'm excited to dive into the topic of nursing. And just to remind the folks and our viewers back home, of course, we all are working remotely. So if you do hear any noises that aren't typical to an office environment, I know myself and Patrick both have dogs. So if you hear them barking, I do apologize in advance. But that shouldn't hold up what we're going to chat about today. And I do look forward to diving into that. So speaking about what we're going to cover, we are going to do a full program overview. As well, we're going to look into the areas of study, so the thematic study areas, course selections, relevant courses, industry relative courses, and then we're going to chat about the experiential learning opportunities, which includes placements, of course, with our nursing program, student research opportunities, so how our students in the nursing program are conducting research to, of course, aid their education path, but also just grow that research knowledge. And then we're going to be looking at some career outcomes and then continuing education. So even though we know that an undergrad nursing program here at Lakehead will hopefully get you into be an RN and then you're working within Canada and maybe the broader world. But we also understand that some students are interested in continuing their education onto law school or medical school, and we'll dive into that too. Things to remember during today's webinar. If you like what you see, don't worry, we will be sending out a link to the recording either today or tomorrow. That comes via email, so if you're on our mailing list, don't worry, you'll receive that. But for those of you who are just looking to watch the recording in general that maybe don't receive those emails, you can check out our YouTube channel. It is just Lakehead University. And the playlist you're going to be looking for is the Lakehead International Lives playlist. And all of those recordings go up typically within the same day, just a few hours later to give our team some time to upload them and whatnot. If you do have questions and you're joining us on Zoom, you can certainly use the Q&A function to submit those questions and we'd be happy to answer them. They can be related to nursing, they can be related to Lakehead University in general. We're certainly happy to answer. If you're joining us from Facebook, you can always comment on the video, and we do have the Lakehead experts behind the scenes working to answer those questions. And last but not least, if you're watching this as a recording, you can always comment on that video. We will receive that notification and we will answer you in a timely manner. And my final note, if you are on social media channels such as Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, you certainly should connect with us. Our channels are Lakehead International, and we are posting regular updates about upcoming events, exciting opportunities, major announcements, but also just giving you a sneak peek into the life at Lakehead. If you're joining us from China, we are also on Weibo, WeChat, and Youku. Without further ado, we will dive into the nursing program. And as promised, we're going to do a program overview to start. So I'll pass the first question off to Wendy to answer sort of what programs are offered within the School of Nursing, and then maybe speaking both to obviously the undergraduate and graduate side.
Thank you, Jordan. So in terms of nursing at Lakehead University, it prepares the learner for a Bachelor of Science in Nursing. And we have two streams of entry and two programs. All programs in Ontario are a collaboration with a college partner, and that's developed back in about 2012, I'm guessing, previously, we could have a registered nurse could have a diploma in nursing or a degree in nursing. Now, a registered nurse in Canada is expected to have a Bachelor of Science in Nursing as a minimum degree. And so we've collaborated with the college program to improve access to learners so that we have a couple of different options in terms of resources and locations. And so the collaborative program means that you have you're enrolled in a 4-year program. You're based at Lakehead University, but your classes can be taken either at the Lakehead University site or at the college site. Sometimes students develop a preference of a location. They're both geographically less than 5 kilometers apart, so very easy to access both sites. And that program, as I stated, is a 4-year program following the regular university schedule of fall to spring, having your summers off. The other stream that we offer is the compressed stream, and the compressed stream is a 3-year program. For some people, it's because they have a previous degree and they just don't want to spend more time than they need to in university, or some people just have different plans of moving on to another career, and so often they choose the 3-year option. The 3-year option, though, can be challenging in that you have to maintain a minimum of 70% in all of your courses, and overall 70% average to stay in the compressed stream. And it's also very intense in that you have to take an extra elective in the 2 semesters of your second year. You then go through the summer semester in between your second and 4th year, which essentially becomes your 3rd year, but you're finished about 6 months sooner than you would if you did the collaborative program. And so again, that's an option sometimes if people plan to move on to law school, medicine, etc., that we do have that availability to our students.
Sure, and just to clarify, both the programs you mentioned, both the collaborative and compressed, are undergraduate programs, so students that are pursuing their bachelor's degree in nursing. And then I'll pass it off to Wendy again to maybe speak to the graduate program that we offer too.
So we currently offer a graduate program through the Faculty of Health and Behavioral Sciences, and it's a Master's in Public Health. And so there's two streams to that in terms of opportunities for nursing. So one stream is a certificate in gerontology, in addition to your Master's in Public Health. The other stream is the nurse practitioner stream, in conjunction to your Master's in Public Health. Currently, we also run a collaborative Master's in Nursing program with Queen's University in Kingston, and we have received approval to start our own Master's in Nursing program, and I believe that's scheduled to begin in 2021. So that improves access for postgraduate studies within our own faculty.
Awesome, that's really exciting to hear about those new opportunities that are upcoming. Again, I'll remind our viewers, if you have any questions about any of those programs, today is the perfect opportunity to get those answers, those questions answered with our guest here. The next question I have for Wendy is sort of, could you dive into the undergraduate side of nursing and speak to some of the thematic study areas that our program focuses on?
Thanks, Jordan. So in terms of nursing, so a lot of people really don't have a clear understanding of what nursing is, and they assume that nurses are just providing basic patient care, so bathing patients, helping them eat, etc. But nursing has become extremely scientific, and we encourage our nurses to become actively involved in research. And so in terms of nursing, rather than being what was viewed previously as an extension to a physician, we're becoming a lot more independent, especially more and more nursing students are continuing on into the role of nurse practitioners, where practice is definitely more independent. So in our first year, we build the foundations, and the first year can be challenging because it is a huge change from high school to university, where you are required to do a lot of learning on your own. There are a lot of resources available on campus for students, and now with social isolation, they're still available online. Some of the more challenging courses are anatomy and physiology, and then even just learning about relational practice. How do we communicate with patients? What are the ethical considerations? And those are the big shifts in year one for a lot of incoming students. It does require a lot of time commitment, and we are always available to help. And I always try and stress that to students. It seems like students are a little nervous to talk to professors, but we're actually pretty approachable, and we'd much rather that you can ask us those questions, and we can always, if we can't answer those questions, redirect you. Starting in first year, we typically would have clinical placements so that you have an opportunity to apply your learned knowledge in a clinical setting at a very basic level. It's mainly just to have our learners exposed to working with people. So how does a hospital type setting work? I say hospital type setting because often those placements are in a long-term care facility where the pace is a little bit more slow, and so it's a little bit more manageable for somebody that's new to healthcare. But again, it gives you that experience with having the opportunity to provide basic nursing care. Starting in second year, the expectation increases. And again, second year is also very challenging because you're learning a lot about disease process, you're learning about medications, you're learning microbiology. How do those components interact with an individual's health, and how do they interact with each other? And so again, that's another shift up for students to learn the language, because health language is like learning a new language. But again, there are resources, and we certainly try and make sure that we can direct you to the resources that can help you succeed in those areas. And as always, professors always have their contact information and office hours on the course outline, so we always encourage people to seek help. In third year, so by third year, people are feeling a little bit more comfortable. Third year are all our specialty courses. So we focus a lot on obstetrics, which is care of the families having babies. We focus on pediatrics, so care of children, some birth to 18. mental health, which is a huge component in all of our societies right now. And so there's a special course for mental health, and then one for more complexities in caring for adults, so anybody beyond the age of 18, in view of increasing morbidities globally, where we look at diabetes, hypertension, anything that's considered significant in terms of how it affects people's quality of life. So we look more critically at those issues in third year. And then fourth year, you have the opportunity it's a 6-week block where you cover leadership issues, more complex issues. You dive a little bit deeper into research in terms of quantitative or qualitative research. And then students have an opportunity in their fourth year to have an overseas placement, which some of our students have taken advantage of. The main criteria for that overseas placement is to be able to demonstrate that you have maturity, that you can represent the university in a professional manner. Your marks have reflected that degree of professionalism and independence. And you also have to be proficient in the language. So most of our students have gone to New Zealand in the past. Some have gone to the UK. We had one student a few years ago went to Finland. But in terms of international students, the world is your oyster. You have lots of different opportunities where you might be able to go to your own communities to have one of your 6-week placements. And so that's a feature that some of our students also really like.
Awesome. Thank you so much for the in-depth answer there. We do have a question from one student right now. It is with regards to the plans for the nursing program in the upcoming intake of fall 2020 and whether those courses will be online. So I know that that question is a very broad question, and I know that right now all of our faculties, all of our chairs and staff members are working really hard to get answers to that question. And to look at what the logistics are. So maybe if we have information that we are confident in sharing right now, we could add to that.
So university responses to the pandemic is a moving target still. I don't think anybody has a concrete answer as to exactly what our fall semester is going to look like. The first year, so for your intake year, I think that's probably going to be the easiest for us to address, because higher years, second, third, fourth year, where students have to be in clinical, definitely way more challenging in terms of getting students the clinical, so the experiential learning, the hands-on, to assimilate what they've learned in theory. Those are definitely where our challenges come in. We have been in discussion and nothing has been finalized as to how best to deliver the content. But again, coming in the fall is perhaps the easiest, in that most of the fall courses will be theory. I've just been teaching spring, summer and teaching via Zoom, and it actually works very well. The students have been happy with the classes on Zoom. The challenge we appreciate for students coming into the program, or even our returning students, will be in terms of accommodations. Do you move here, or is it going to be entirely on Zoom? So unfortunately, we don't have a definite answer, but I would suspect first semester of first year, we most likely will be delivering most of that content online. I hope that answers that question for you.
For sure, yeah, and I think that even that answer was enough to give the broad idea of what we anticipate for the fall. But as anyone can appreciate, and as we've said before, this is an ever-evolving situation, and our senior management team is monitoring the situation very closely, and we're making the most informed and best decisions for our students to ensure health and safety, but also academic excellence, and providing those opportunities to stay connected, to support our students through this time. And so there's a lot of things that need to be worked out still. And like we've mentioned before, those sorts of details we are hoping to receive clarity and then communicate that to our applicants and to our students in the coming weeks, hopefully. So I want to thank you again for that question. Diving back into kind of the structured questions and things that we are going to cover, Wendy, I'll pass it off to you to speak about the experiential learning opportunities and the placements that are involved with nursing, because I know Lakehead is quite unique in having our students do that within their first year, but also just the opportunities and the connections and partnerships we've made here in Thunder Bay, I think are really important to speak on.
So again, in terms of experiential learning, Jordan's correct in saying that we are really fortunate that we have lots of connections in terms of opportunities for our students to gain experiential learning. We hear from students who have friends in the larger centers, especially the GTA, where a lot of their clinical experience is replaced by simulation, for example. And also, if they do have a clinical placement, sometimes they're commuting 2 hours each way to their placements. And placements can be very limited because there are more universities, more competition for space, larger class sizes. And so in Thunder Bay, we're really fortunate with, even though we do have typically 200 students per year, we still have enough opportunities for experiential placements for our students to gain a really nice, well-rounded repertoire of experience by the time they finish their 4th year. We do have Thunder Bay Regional Hospital is our acute care hospital, and it's a regional referral center. So that means for our demographic region, and I can't remember the square mile geographical limits for our area, but it is quite large. And we do service a number of communities that send more complex cases to Thunder Bay Regional. So we are an acute care teaching hospital, again, which exposes you to a lot of more complex cases and complex experiences. We do have a chronic care hospital and rehabilitation hospital as well. We do have many long-term care facilities, lots of community agencies that provide care across the spectrum. We have pediatric outpatients, we have pediatric organizations in the community that address where there are perhaps some disabilities such as autism, cerebral palsy, any physical challenges that causes delay. We have community health centers, which provide diverse services to marginalized populations. We have our public health unit, which is based mainly with programs founded on research to improve population health. And we do encourage some students to go to some of the rural community hospitals, which gives you a whole other appreciation for working in more rural isolated settings, which also gives you a phenomenal experience with complexities and triaging, prioritizing. So we do provide a very, very broad, what's the word I'm looking for? Very broad opportunities for you to, again, hopefully get the experience that you're looking for by the time you finish your 4th year. And these clinical placements start in year 1, as I mentioned, though year 1 placements are predominantly in the long-term care settings. Again, because many people haven't been exposed to working with the elderly, just getting you used to the basics of healthcare, physical assessments, vital signs, etc. But starting in your 2nd year, you start with surgical placements, medical placements, and build in the complexity to the specialty areas.
You also, I have quite a few friends that are in the nursing program or have graduated out of the nursing program, and to my knowledge or understanding, I know that they can be placed in different areas of the hospital, for example. So I know in 4th year, one of my friends was placed in the emergency department, where another one of them was put into the pediatric section. So could you speak to maybe what that looks like, and then also the broader scope of what these clinical placement groups are, so the size of them and who they're paired up with?
Sure, thanks. So in 1st year, you're in larger groups. So when I say larger groups, your clinical placement is usually 4 hours once a week, and that's usually in groups of 8. In 2nd year, typically could be groups of 6 or 8. And you're, again, paired up with a clinical instructor. You're building on your skills. Third year, we have smaller group sizes. We tend to be down to group sizes of 6 because by third year, you're developing a little bit more autonomy. You're getting close to being in the driver's seat. So we try to keep the groups a little bit smaller so that you can have a lot more support and mentoring from your clinical instructor. So these groups are 6 people roughly with 1 clinical instructor, and you work days or evenings. So first year, second year, third year, you do not work any nights. In fourth year, however, as Jordan mentioned, you have that opportunity to work in specialized areas. So you can request, we have a selector process that you can request that you can work in ICU, emergency room, the operating room, the neonatal intensive care units, pediatrics, obstetrics, again, any of the higher acuity areas. It does require that you have demonstrated competency throughout the program, that you have that knowledge base that allows you to be in those critical thinking areas, because they do require you to make decisions in a very quick manner, not even timely. It has to be a quick response. And so you have to demonstrate that capacity to be able to get to those high acuity areas. That being said, you can still have an older adult placement or complex adult placement in cancer care or cardiac care. And that's not to say that they are less important than the other areas. You can actually have significant learning in those areas. So those placements are precepted placements. And those placements, you have 2 6-week blocks in 2 different areas, and those blocks are actually one-on-one with a preceptor. So again, it's getting you into that driver's seat, but having training wheels still on. So your preceptor is there to guide you, and you're getting to practice a little bit more autonomously and independently by the time you get to your fourth year. And actually I said 2 placements, but actually it's 3 6-week block placements that you get. And again, you go into a selective process. You don't always get what you want, but they give you a few different options that we try and accommodate requests as much as possible. One of those placements can be in your home community or a different center if you have family members living, for example, in the GTA or Vancouver. But it also depends on availability, but definitely always ask, and we will always seek out opportunities in those centers.
Awesome. And I know that you also mentioned that students are available to do international exchanges. So one of my friends that was in the pediatrics also was the same student that went to Australia. But I was just doing some research yesterday to see where students have gone, and I've seen them go to New Zealand, Australia, Finland, all over the United States, from coast to coast in Canada. But also I've seen some in Thailand, and some really interesting opportunities that open up the breadth of knowledge that you're going to gain in that international experience, while also having a pretty awesome time and really gaining some valuable life skills of traveling around the world. For Wendy, could you also elaborate, just for our viewers, what a preceptor is?
So a preceptor is a registered nurse who will be working with that nursing student one-on-one. So that preceptor follows the guidelines based on the entry to practice competencies. So nursing practice in Ontario, for example, is guided by the College of Nurses of Ontario. Each province in Canada has its own regulatory body, and that is a global thing that you will find with nursing. I was actually just on the World Health Organization website yesterday. They have a new publication out that is does a breakdown of nursing all over the world. So you can always access that resource to get an idea of the number of nurses in a country in comparison to number of physicians or number of midwives, for example. And so a preceptor basically is helping you, like say you still have the training wheels on. They're basically your training wheels while you're doing the primary care for the clients. So typically you'll have a caseload. In year 1, you're starting off with looking after 1 patient. And usually by year 3, we encourage students to have a caseload of 2 patients. But then by year for when you're working with your preceptor one-on-one, we hope that you're able to look after 3 or 4 patients. Now, in that role, like I say, your preceptor is like having training wheels on. You're encouraged to manage the care of the patients more independently, communicate with other professionals. So you're communicating with the healthcare team for that circle of care for clients, where you might be liaising with the social worker, the dietitian, the pharmacist, the physician, the specialist physician, if you're on a surgical floor, for example, or orthopedic floor, for example, or if you're in ICU, would be the pediatrician or the obstetrician if you're working in maternal child. So it gives you that opportunity to really look more holistically and be engaged more independently with, again, having those little training wheels of your preceptor in the background.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for diving into that. I think I myself learned quite a bit just from that, and I'm sure our viewers did as well. Now, diving back into the program itself, so obviously we've covered the broad overview of the program, which programs we offer, some of the courses that you take, and then now we've dove into the placement. Could you also talk about some of the research opportunities that are offered within nursing? So research opportunities that are built right into the course and assignments that our students are completing?
So in terms of the research opportunities, I'll start with assignments actually. So assignments, you will have assignments throughout all the years in your nursing program. Again, those become a little bit challenging for students because with our assignments, we require that they encompass evidence-based information. And so for some people, that's a change in way of thinking, that you can't just state something because you've heard of it or you read it somewhere without having that evidence-based background. And so in first year, you're introduced into what constitutes evidence-based research. Where do you locate this information? But we also have really excellent resources at our library. We have a librarian that's specifically dedicated to nursing. She's dedicated to nursing and law, and she is able to help guide you in that direction. So just even changing how the style of writing, how you access information, how you cite it is a huge change, but we introduced that in year 1. We also, for our international students, really encourage them to use the Student Success Center because sometimes things don't always translate literally. And so it just helps to the student to develop more of a flow in terms of the English language. In terms of second year right through to 4th year, so second year, each course will have an assignment specific to the content of the course. And so I can't really give you an exact example other than, for example, I teach childbearing, so I teach OBS, that we would look at what are the more current ethical issues in practice and try and get our students to write assignments, usually 4 to 6 pages on that particular topic, or do presentations by developing a pamphlet, working in a group, using different tools to do presentations. We have had where students have developed posters and then poster presentations, exhibitions. And then with having the Masters in Public Health program, we have the Masters in Nursing program, and now Health Sciences has a PhD program of Health Sciences. We anticipate that we'll have more opportunities for students to become involved in terms of more active research. Currently, if any of our faculty members are conducting a research project, sometimes students can ask faculty members if they can be involved, and often they're involved in the data review or data collection process. So there are definitely opportunities if that is an area of interest. It's integral in a part of as part of the program, but more specific research experience you can always access specifically with approaching any of the faculty members who has demonstrated their work as being of interest to you, because we all have very different interests in terms of our research.
Awesome. And also kind of elaborating on that is the fact that we've heard from several faculty members that we've previously met with, and other students as well, of when there's not necessarily built-in opportunities to conduct very specialized research, connecting with your professors and asking them for those opportunities. Typically, we see that they're more than willing to take on extra students and get that extra help. And then that also speaks to the fact that we see students be more successful in some cases when they are applying to continuing education, when they have that relevant research experience. It really ties in to add to their CV and their resume. So we certainly encourage that if you are looking to do more specialized research opportunities and do a little extra, to connect with your professors, connect with faculty members, and ask them, because I can almost say that asking for that opportunity and then the professor saying, hey, I'll have an extra hand to conduct that research or look over the data, I think that they would be very interested in that for sure. So we will dive into the continuing education in a second, but Wendy, I think you were going to add something there, so I'll let you come back on there.
I was just going to say, sorry, Jordan. Building on that is that nursing is changing, as we speak, in that it's going to become a lot more research-based. And so I think it really behooves anybody that is applying to the nursing program to start thinking about what have they observed in their own family, their own communities, that really could benefit from a change in terms of health. And when we speak of health based on the World Health Organization definition, health isn't just related to illness. Health is basically addressing things that can improve quality of life in any community. And so, again, nursing is becoming more of a scientific field rather than a bedside providing basic patient care field. There's definitely benefits of integrating that aspect of nursing, but again, it's becoming more research and research-based, sorry.
No worries. Thank you so much for adding that. The next question that I want to dive into, covering the whole program and then speaking to the larger goal within your university experience, is that next step. So the career opportunities that come after you graduate from the nursing program here at Lakehead. So I'll pass it back to you, Wendy, to speak to just a few of the opportunities that we've seen some of our students go into. And then following up, we will certainly go into the continuing education portion.
So some of the opportunities that our students have had, so most of our students actually will have work once they graduate. We've heard of some challenges for people wanting to work in the larger centers, obviously, because of the density of the population and density of population of nurses. But in the Thunder Bay region, pretty well you're guaranteed a job upon graduation, and it could be in any of the fields. And so typically what happens for a lot of our nursing students is in one of their fourth-year placements that I spoke to before, one of those precepted placements. Sometimes that builds into a job opportunity for our students. And sometimes it's temporary, but again, it still gives you experience while you're waiting to write your licensing exam. So the university grants you a degree in nursing, but to actually practice, you have to write a general exam to allow you to actually officially practice as a registered nurse. And that exam is the NCLEX exam, which is consistent in North America. So while you're waiting to write your NCLEX exam, or while you're waiting for your results even, sometimes people get hired into any of our organizations in Thunder Bay. We often also, in terms of opportunities during your program, a lot of our students, it gives them the extra hands-on experience with working with people. A lot of our students have been able to secure jobs in our long-term care facilities and with our chronic care hospitals. So during your program, you can have that additional hands-on experience. But in terms of opportunities, as you get closer to graduation and upon finishing, your fourth-year placement, as I mentioned, can sometimes build into your first job. And it sometimes is just a 6-month contract, but it still gives you experience. But also it can build into a longer-term opportunity. And as I mentioned, opportunities are within our acute care hospital, could be in our region, could be in some of our community locations. Moving on to that, some of our students have gone on to do their master's, and I know There's a variety of master's programs available, and most of them are administered through distributed learning in the recent past, because previously you would have to be on site at a university to complete a lot of graduate programs specific to nursing. But now nursing opportunities have made it so that you have easier access that allows you to complete graduate studies while you're working, which is also a bonus for people. And so you're continuing to gain experience while you're completing your graduate studies program. And so some of those would be like one of our students did a wounds care master's. We have our master's in public health. We have masters in gerontology, or some students go on to do the nurse practitioner program, which is essentially working in primary care similar to a family physician. And we have a high number of nurse practitioners in Ontario. I believe there's over 700 nurse practitioners in Ontario, which is pretty good. And again, they work in different settings. They work in cardiac care, they work in community health centers, they work with family health teams, they work in cardiac units. I don't believe we have any in the ER, but in the GTA, as a nurse practitioner, you can work in an ICU with the transport team or their pediatric units. And so there's diverse opportunities as a nurse practitioner, which is a postgraduate program. Some students can go into law. Students seem really reluctant to go into law, or when we've done grade 11 tours, grade 12 tours, and students we ask them what do they want to do, and they say, well, I want to be a lawyer. And so I often say to them that nursing is a really good practical undergraduate program, because while you're waiting to get into some of the other programs which have limited spaces, you're gaining experience working with people, experience about society, experience about how the healthcare system, which is a huge system in most countries, how that works. And also professional bodies require people with experience in the healthcare field. So as a lawyer, if you have nursing experience, that's really helpful that you can work with one of the legislative or licensing bodies. So your College of Nurses of Ontario, your Registered Nurses of Ontario. If you go on to medicine, you still have that background. There are also opportunities upon finishing, for example, your master's in public health, that you can have a government job where they're looking at programs. They focus a lot on research that can help the country as a whole in terms of health. Some students have gone on to medicine. We've actually had recently a lot more students going into medicine. So I always say the world is your oyster, because nursing allows you to travel. It's very portable. You often have to do a licensing exam if you change countries of practice, but usually that's the easier part. Completing the first 4 years is usually the challenging part. But again, the world is your oyster once you complete a program in nursing, and especially a Bachelor of Science degree in nursing.
Awesome. And we do have a question regarding that licensing exam, the NCLEX. So the question is how hard is it to pass the first time around? And typically, how much time do our graduates of the 4-year nursing program devote to studying for that exam? So I know that question has probably a few different answers, but on the broader side of it, what have you seen in your experience for students preparing for the NCLEX?
So the NCLEX exam was newer to our nursing students in Canada, and we went to the NCLEX exam in 2015. And initially, our pass rates across the country were not the best, and I think it was because of the shift in the type of exam that it was. But now pass rates are over 90%. You can access those results on the College of Nurses for example, on the College of Nurses of Ontario website. You can certainly Google that and access NCLEX results, and it gives you the results of all the universities in Ontario. We try and prepare you. So I know for myself that I will always try and incorporate NCLEX type questions in our program. You have an exam that you do at the start of 4th year, and it's basically like a mock NCLEX exam. And the purpose of doing that is it allows the student the opportunity to practice the NCLEX type of exam, and it helps them identify the areas that they need to learn a little bit more about, that they really need to focus on. And so we try and provide you all the information that you will require to be successful in the NCLEX exam. How much time you take to study for the NCLEX exam depends on your learning style. It depends on your own ability to recall. And we usually encourage students. What I find sometimes is a challenge is when students come to university, they continue to learn as they did in high school, where learn and forget, learn and forget. You have to remember that nursing is building. Any profession really, so nursing, medicine, law, you're not, the courses are designed so that they're foundational, and that with each year you're building on those foundational courses. And so I urge students to try and make sure that they grasp the concepts every single year, and that you're making really good notes every single year, so that it makes your work in terms of preparing for the NCLEX exam in 4th year a lot easier. There are lots of online resources, there's lots of books even, that can help you practice questions. So again, that you are prepared as well as possible prior to the NCLEX exam.
Awesome, thank you so much. And I know that we already dove into the continuing education. I know you touched on the fact that we do see some students going into law or further education within the law field, also professional designations. And then I know that you said that in recent years, we've seen a larger number of our graduates also entering medical schools and continuing that. And that also ties in really nicely to the fact, yesterday during our Instagram Live with Esther, who was an applied life sciences student for 2 years, she learned the really broad knowledge of science. So she said that she picked that program specifically to get a broad knowledge of biology, chemistry, physics, and sort of all the different fields. And now that she is pursuing her end goal as medical school, she's decided that nursing would be her best option to now enter that this year, complete the program, and then work towards that permanent job within nursing and then the PR, because that will help her as an international student get into medical school. So it's really great to hear that from your experience too, that other students are doing the same thing, that they are continuing on education, because I know it's a pretty common question among our applicants. So that kind of wraps everything up today. I know that we're coming close to the 11 o'clock here. Wendy, did you have anything to add to our potential applicants or our current applicants who are potentially entering the program this upcoming fall?
This upcoming fall, the only thing really is, again, being open to the fact that we are still in transition, still in the decision-making process as to exactly how we would administer the program. First year, we most likely would be doing most of your courses in the fall online. We certainly, it doesn't compromise the quality of the teaching. You'll have the exact same information. The only thing would be from the comfort of your own home. There has been talk about whether it's synchronous or asynchronous, and again, that has not been totally decided, and that decision is beyond our control. It really just depends on what happens globally in terms of what our regulators, the health units, will allow for organizations. Nursing, like say, opens up a whole world of opportunities. If I can add a personal plug myself, I grew up in the Caribbean. I left there when I was 18. I did my nursing and my midwifery in the UK. So I lived there for 8 years, which exposed me to a different culture, different community, different learning experience. And I've been in Canada for over 30 years. I ended up in Northwestern Ontario, which is the area that's serviced by Lakehead University, totally by accident. At first, I was thinking, where am I? What am I doing here? Because it's very different to countries like the UK, very different to larger centers in Ontario, Canada. But it actually provides you so much more opportunity in terms of hands-on, the ability to multitask, the ability to learn more about other professional roles and sort of actually be able to sort of complete some of the tasks that other professionals will do in the larger centers. So it really gives you a very broad opportunity for diversity in learning. The community is smaller, but still growing, and we have a lot more opportunities for international students than we did when I first moved up here. And as I always say, students, you have lots of opportunities to travel with nursing. The only reason I don't travel is because I decided to settle in Thunder Bay with my husband. But when you're young, single, you can certainly travel wherever you like and gain lots of very valuable experience with nursing. So much easier to do with nursing.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time today, Wendy. As a part of my typical wrap up, I would love to remind our viewers to stay connected with us and follow us on our social media channels. So like I said previously, we are on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. Our Facebook channel is Lakehead University International. We also have a group already started on there. As of yesterday, we had 274 members as a part of the incoming class of fall 2020. And this is quite a new group, so it's continuing to grow, and we see new requests to join that group every day. There are a few questions you have to fill out, such as what program you'll be entering, what your entry date will be, and then you do have to provide your student ID and your number so that we can confirm who you are and that you are entering Lakehead and you've accepted and whatnot. We're also on Instagram, Lakehead International, and like I said, every Tuesday and Thursday we are doing Instagram Lives with current students to chat about their Lakehead experience, and that is at 10 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. We're on Twitter, Lakehead INTL, and we are on YouTube. Lakehead University is the main university's channel, which we are a part of. We do have 2 dedicated playlists for international students. That is the Lakehead International Lives, where all of our webinars are recorded and uploaded after the fact, so you can watch them if you want more information. If you maybe had to head out early, you can always catch up on that. As well as the Lakehead International playlist, where we sit down with quite a few students, get some testimonials about their student experience, and it's a great opportunity to just explore Lakehead and learn more about us. All while you're doing this, we certainly encourage you to take a virtual campus tour. So check out Thunder Bay campus, Aurelia campus, get to know what the facilities look like, what study environments will be like, and also the surrounding beauty of our campus. All you have to do is head to lakeheadu.ca/tours, and that virtual tour is right on that page. There is no appointments necessary. You can do it at your own convenience, at your own pace. So it's really, you get to do it from the comfort of your own home, whether it be on your couch or in your bed. We give the power to you to complete that tour, and it's something that we've seen great success with, and our students are really pleased with getting to know what Lakehead is all about. Last but not least, thank you again to our special guest, Wendy, and as well to Patrick for joining us today. It was a pleasure learning about nursing. I myself had a lot of friends in nursing, but I think I've gained quite a bit of knowledge just about the program itself, so I'm really excited to be a part of this. And I hopefully look forward to seeing more of you, our audience members, on Monday's Monday Meetup with the Student Success Center, where we will dive into some of the supports and programs in place to help aid our students reach their personal and academic goals.